Welcome back, Trailblazers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that has completely transformed the way I plan and navigate my hikes, AllTrails Plus. As a Trailheads ambassador and the organizer of the Yakima Valley Trekkers, I'm out on the trails a lot. One of my favorite features of AllTrails Plus is the ability to edit and create my own maps. Conditions change, fallen trees, washed out sections, or even a last-minute reroute. And with AllTrails Plus, I can adjust my route on the fly and share it with others so everyone stays informed and safe. AllTrails Plus also gives you offline maps, wrong turn alerts, and 3D trail previews to help you stay on track and make the most of your adventure. And the best part, you can get 30% off an AllTrails Plus membership with my exclusive link in the episode show notes. So whether you're planning your next big trek or just looking for a new trail to explore, AllTrails Plus has you covered. Check it out and let's hit the trail. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey, connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the United States and beyond. Throughout these winter months, we've had the privilege of conversing with remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. Closing out season 9, we're joined by Tessa, a travel nurse and adventure seeker who has hiked across the U.S. and beyond, from the Alpine Lakes Wilderness in Washington to Patagonia's legendary W Trek. She shares how hiking became a powerful form of healing, her experiences solo hiking in grizzly country, and why she never hesitates to jump into an alpine lake, no matter how cold. We also dive into her bucket list adventures, including walking alongside wild penguins in South America, tackling Larch Madness in Banff and the North Cascades, and the lessons learned from her intense first hike through the Enchantments. Plus, she shares how she balances adventure with nursing school and travel goals. This episode does contain explicit adult language that has not been bleeped or removed. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Tessa. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I have a really exciting guest with me today. She's going to be sharing about her incredible experiences all across the U.S. as well as abroad. Her name is Tessa, and she's going to be sharing about how she got into backpacking and being able to see some amazing, beautiful places here on planet Earth. Tessa, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We always like to start off by asking our guests to share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Tessa. I was originally born in Michigan, but I've lived kind of like all across the country. I got my nursing degree in Florida and did a year there and then moved back home for a little bit. And then I started doing travel nursing kind of like right when COVID started. During COVID, it was just kind of like I was in a really pretty like dark place in my life, just really depressed and really having like a big struggle in life. And so I really wanted to find like healing, and I didn't want to be on like medication for healing. I didn't want to like, doing all these different pharmaceuticals. I wanted to I like knew that there was something in this world that could like heal my soul in a way that was like, healthy for my body. So I started out, I went to this lake in the back of Mount St. Helens, and it was like this lake that had volcanic ash water. I had like really bad acne and everything, and I really wanted to fix my acne. And so the water was anti-parasitic, antimicrobial, just like a really, I don't know, like it's something about like volcanic ash in the water that makes it very healthy for your skin. So I went and I just like kind of jumped in, and I was like, wow, like I don't know what it was, but it was just like I felt like a burst of like energy. It's probably the cold plunge, honestly, like when you get in cold water for a long period of time that like really did it. But it was something about sitting on my paddleboard that my parents had bought me for my previous birthday gift, which was like an epic gift. Like, thank you, mom and dad. But I was just sitting there like on my paddleboard in the middle of the lake with no one around for a sunset with this beautiful volcano right in front of me. And it was just something about being in nature. And I had grown up hiking and being outdoorsy with my family, but I kind of like fell away from that lifestyle for a long time in my early 20s. And so to be back and be present with Mother Earth, it just kind of kickstarted this like, wow, there's something about being outside that's super epic and super healing. And like it just kind of like kickstarted me like getting to a hiking journey. And since then, I've started from not knowing how to do a damn thing as a baby hiker. I didn't even know what all trails was. I was like, what is that? And so like I started out not knowing a damn thing, just that I wanted to be outside. So now I've gone on really epic hikes. I mean, obviously I haven't, climbed Mount Everest, like not that crazy, but like I've done some pretty cool hikes. I just feel like, yeah, through Mother Earth, I found like a really cool healing. And through that, I've kind of kickstart my hiking journey.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to kind of dive deep into some of these amazing treks that you've been able to do. And I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable with, how you got involved with the outdoors. Would you say the Pacific Northwest is what kind of kickstarted your love for the outdoors again? And
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
what were some of your favorite places in and around the region that kind of helped you heal?
So definitely Sawtooth is like one of my favorite places. After I was at my contract in California, I took a contract in Idaho and I lived with one of my best friends at that time. She had kids and stuff and like I don't have kids or like spouse or anything. So like in a house of like little kids, sometimes you just need some you time. So like I would drive by myself to Sawtooth like at any chance I had. The hot springs there are just, oh my gosh, they're like the most epic things. And if you're trying to find like some healing, going in a natural hot tub where it's beautiful views all around you, it just doesn't get any better than that. That was one of them. And honestly, I'd have to say Washington is my favorite state to live in. Like was telling you earlier, I lived in the Wenatchee area for like a year and a half and maybe even like longer. I mean, I hiked my ass off. It's so cool because I'm deathly afraid of like animals, like bears and shit. Like I don't want to fuck with a grizzly. Like I don't want to see one on the trail. So like it's nice because in like at least some parts of Washington, like not all of them, but like some of them, like there's no grizzlies. And so like that's really cool. Honestly, like the North Cascades, when I first started hiking, I went like on this road trip because I was waiting for my Oregon license. Long story. I was going to work in Oregon, ended up doing Idaho, but I took like a month and a half road trip. I somehow ended up in the North Cascades. I like was in Oregon and then I went to Glacier National Park and then I drove and like ended up in the North Cascades, like not even knowing what it was, and fell asleep at this like pull off because I was like living in my car and I woke up to Lake Diablo. Yeah, it's insane. And it's like right there. Like if you're not even a hiker, like you can still go see it. And it's just like, bam, just like a little lookout. I was so afraid in the start of like everything. I was afraid of like everything. I thought like a cougar was just going to jump out at me, like at a rest area. Like what? I mean, like very slim chance that a cougar is just going to find you at like a rest area, like that little thing. So it kind of kickstarted me to be like, all right, don't be afraid of being outdoors because it's so cool. I was like, I want to see cool stuff like this. Yeah, so the North Cascades, Sawtooth, and honestly all over Washington.
One thing that's really inspirational about your story, Tessa, is you've been doing a lot of these treks solo. How was it getting into hiking and exploring in and around the Pacific Northwest as a solo hiker?
I don't know. It's kind of like nice. I'm very like introverted. For me to just like do a solo hike, like I can just like disconnect. Obviously, like I'm a travel nurse. So like as a nurse, like you're constantly for 12 hours a day, you're either talking to like people that you work with or your patients. And it's just like a lot of interaction. So like to go out into like the outdoors as like a solo person, like for the positive, like you just get a peace and quiet. And like your phone, you're disconnected. It's like so nice. But like, yeah, is it scary? Like at first, yeah, it's like super scary, right? But like if you can figure out like how to like safely hike, like get the All Trails app, or there's like other apps, but like I use All Trails, and download your map offline, like have your water pack with your water filters, like just be prepared. And then also like tell yourself like I'm a bad bitch and I can fucking do this hike. A lot of like the hiking by myself, like it's because that I didn't have anyone to go with. I'm not gonna like let my fear of like doing something alone stop me from doing something super cool. Like you're alone for like a majority of your life. You might have people come in and out of your life, but like for the most part, you are like alone. Why not believe in yourself and be like, nah, dude, I can fucking do this. And I'm going to do this alone or with people. I don't need people to see really cool stuff.
One thing that I also really enjoyed about your Instagram feed is you do these solo treks, but you're also doing things that I think a lot of people want to do, but maybe they don't have that extra motivation to do. Because one thing that I really love is you jump into many bodies of water, regardless if they're warm or not. And I think a lot of us, when we see these lakes, we're like, oh, I wish I could jump in, but I don't have an extra set of clothes. Sometimes we find an excuse not to do these things that we want to do, but
Yeah.
maybe we don't have the courage or motivation to do. How did you start committing into doing these awesome activities like jumping into glacial waters?
So honestly, I study like Wim Hof. I started doing ice baths before I started doing a lot of my glacier dips. Before I started really following Wim Hof's practice, honestly, you're just so hot from hiking up this mountain. The only thing you want in life is to jump in that cold water. I don't care how cold it is. If you've hiked, a 2,500 elevation gain over 6 miles up this mountain in the dead of summer, I don't know how you couldn't jump in a glacier. For me, I was just like, I need to cool off. Like, I'm literally sweating to death right now. But after that, I started studying Wim Hof and the benefits of doing those things. So, like I said, for the cold plunges, that's more of like a spiritual thing for me. Obviously, cooling your body or cleaning yourself, like when you're full of dirt and dust, those are beneficial. But if you got in that water and you stayed in there for like 2 to 5 minutes and just like meditated on your breath, the amount of dopamine that you get from that is just like you're on a high. Like you feel so good. It's scary, right? Or like you have to jump in your underwear. There is no one at these alpine lakes for the most part. And if they are, I don't think they care if you're jumping in the water like in your underwear. They're probably either going to join you or copy you, or they're just going to like, they don't even care. So that's like the whole jumping in things. But like, I don't know. I think, like sometimes you just got to like send it and you just have to go for it. And that's kind of my theory on like everything.
And so true. Like if you are the only one that, let's say, jumps into a lake and there are other people around, a lot of the times then you'll start seeing other people willing to jump into the lake too. And it just becomes a great domino effect.
Oh, yeah. And there's been so many people that like through me posting about like jumping in a lake have been like, oh, I did it. And they like love it. And it's, I don't know, don't be afraid to do something because if it's a positive thing, it's just going to ripple to like everyone else doing it too with you.
Your journey has been so great. You spoke about your beginnings here in the Pacific Northwest and not knowing about all trails to now visiting beautiful countries and beautiful places like Patagonia. How would you say your hiking skills have evolved? And how does it feel to look back and see how far you've come?
So I think like in an honesty, I think my hiking skills have like slightly improved, but physically, I still struggle going uphill. The incline shit, I still die. It's always going to be hard for me, right? But as far as the mental aspect, I'm definitely more prepared. I think what's in my pack is a lot different than what used to be in my pack. And I think I know how to prepare a lot more if I need it, or like if it's a 4 hour day hike, I don't need shit. Understanding what you need to put on your back. And also my courage to like trying things that I would never imagine like 2 years ago doing 20-mile day hikes. And this summer I did like 6 or 7 of them. I think the courage of like knowing like, hey, it's going to be a full, 8 to 12 hour day of hiking, but like I can do it. And I'm like, I want to do those kind of things. So I think like, 2 years ago, I'd have been like 20 miles, like, whoa, like, I don't think so. But like now it's kind of like, I think my skills have changed in that sense. I'm willing to like send it a lot harder now than I like was in the past.
I think sometimes we put our own barriers and limits, and sometimes you just got to push yourself to go from 10 to 15. And once you tackle that, then 15 to 20. And then pretty soon you're like, oh man, like I can't believe I was limiting myself to, X amount of miles. And now I can do 20, 25. It's really been awesome to see your growth. You got to experience Larch Madness, not just here in my home state of Washington in the North Cascades, but you also went to, I think for me, an all-time high on the national park list, and that's Banff. And you got to see the larches in the Canadian Rockies. How was it experiencing larch season in the North Cascades? And then how did it compare to larch season in the Canadian Rockies?
So I definitely think it's like two different types of like larch seasons, right? Like, so when I went to larch season North Cascades, it was kind of like the end of it, but it was still gorgeous. I went with my cousin Dana, who she's a huge hiker too. Love her. She's actually like one of my inspirations to like getting more into hiking. So I went with her, and the larches in like the Maple Pass Loop, it was gorgeous, right? I would describe like the mountains on the Washington Cascades as very like dramatic. So I think that kind of view with the larches was phenomenal. There was a lot of people, but not so many. Like we had many times that like we were like no one was around us. And so like comparing that to like going to Canada, like going to Larch Valley where it was insane the amount of people that were there. But I thought it was way cooler, honestly, in Larch Valley because like if you do it right, like you start by getting a shuttle to like Lake Marine at 4 a.m. and you get to like watch sunrise. It's beautiful. By the time it's 6:30, you're ready to hike before like all the big shuttles get there. So by the time like you get up to like the actual Larch Valley part where it's the insane, I mean, just so many larches, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I just think it was way for like larch season. I think if you want to hit the hike for larch season, Larch Valley, 10 out of 10 would recommend over any other hike. It was gorgeous. But like the fact of like starting it earlier meant like, I mean, I was still with a lot of people, but by the time we hiked down, the amount of people that were coming up was insane. So if you're going to do Larch Valley, I would definitely start it early in the morning. I mean, it was just the larches were so bright. And it might have been because I went in the beginning of larch season when it was peak season there instead of at the tail end like I did in like the North Cascades. It was phenomenal. I think like the last weekend of September is the week to go. So put that shit on your calendar. You have got to see that.
Yeah, definitely be putting it on my calendars because, like I said, I need to go back to Banff, and why not go when it's Larch Madness up there?
Yeah, it's beautiful. The other days of our hike was definitely like rainy. So I would bring like a rain jacket because like, you know, it's fall. So it's like getting to like rainy. But the day we went, it was clear blue skies, just wonderful. So yeah, you should definitely put that on your list for this year. It's before it gets like too, I mean, it's already crazy. So it's just going to get crazier.
Tessa, one thing that I've noticed is you've been able to explore outside of the United States and Canada. You've been able to go to Costa Rica, Patagonia. How did your love of travel kind of come about?
So I started traveling, I mean, like not much when I was a kid. Like we just went up north every weekend. I started traveling in like my early 20s. I kind of got like a little taste of like what it was like. And then when I started kind of like living in the Pacific Northwest, it was honestly because I have this thing where like I go on Instagram and I'll swipe through like all of these hiking videos and I find that view is the view I want to see. So like I'll put it on my Google Maps. It wasn't so much like a love for traveling. It was like an obsession to need to see the view that I was seeing. Like I was like, I want to see, like I want to experience that. So like you just have to travel to like do it. And like I also, I mean, like I was traveling a lot like in the States. I mean, I drove across the US like 5 times just because I was between contracts or like, you know, instead of like flying home, I'm like, well, I'll just drive home. Like, you know, those kind of things. So like I kind of was like getting into like, I guess just traveling just because like I was solo, like I had nothing else to do. And so like I think it was more like I was okay with the traveling in the States. So like I was like, okay, like I can do something out of the States. And then I was like, I need to see that view. Wasn't so much like a love for traveling. It was just, yeah, like I said, like an obsession to want to see that view.
I think for a lot of people, traveling and visiting other places, you do a lot, but you also slow down and appreciate, those moments a little bit more. They're not in your backyard, like some of the local trails that are around your home. You mentioned Patagonia, and I think, Tessa, for a lot of hikers and backpackers, it's really high on the bucket list for a lot of us. How did Patagonia get on your radar? And can you share a little bit about your experiences down south?
Yeah. So when I was like a baby hiker, I was driving from Michigan to my first travel contract in California. And it took like 2 days for me to get new keys made for my car. So I was like in this rental for a couple days and just passing time. So I went to Patagonia, Arizona. And I don't know why I made like a post online and I was like, this is what Patagonia, the like store is named after, which is not at all what it's named after. My whole family was like, Tessa, like, no, not the same thing. And I was like, it's Patagonia. What do you mean? They're like, they're talking about like South America, like not Patagonia, Arizona, which is like really cool, but like not Patagonia cool, You can't find the Fitzroy in fucking Patagonia, Arizona. So then I like started like being like, oh, this is really cool. And I kept hearing people being like, if you're a hiker, Patagonia is like the spot, like the W track. You got to do the W track. And so I started nurse practitioner school. Like I started my program last year and I was like, before school gets too crazy, I'm going to take this epic trip. I had a perfect time that I could take the month off from like school and from work. I was at a facility. I mean, God bless their souls. They let me take a whole month off on my travel contract. And so, yes, it was always in the back of my mind for years as like, growing from like someone who was so clueless, thought Patagonia was Patagonia, Arizona to like, I'm going. And like I had the resources to go. And like obviously you can do Patagonia like a lot cheaper than I did. And I blew a lot of money doing just whatever I wanted because it was great. But like, yeah, so that's kind of the gist of how that trip started. And honestly, I got the W Trek, which if you're going to do the Patagonia, I would do the O Trek. Honestly, it's a few days longer and the back end of everything is definitely like I hear is way cool because there's not like commercialized as much, less people, less crowds, because like everyone kind of will come to like do day trips also in the W Trek. Yeah, so if you're gonna do the hike, the like trek, do the O Trek, not the W Trek. But yeah, in July I scheduled that, and then for like 6 months I started like paying for little sections of my trip to make it a whole month trip. So it's kind of like how I ended up there, and like I just like planned a whole trip around this like W Trek because they released, you know, like how they released in like the US the reservations and stuff. So they released that, I think it's July 1st or something like that.
And, you know, one regular segment that we like to do here on the podcast is do a deep dive into our guest's Instagram and ask them about a particular post or a reel. And it was a reel from Patagonia that caught our attention because for me, I feel like my spirit animal is a penguin. The fact that you got to walk with penguins really caught my eye.
Dude.
Can you share a little bit about that surreal experience and what it was like to be so close to these incredible animals?
Majestic creatures. Yeah.
Majestic.
So
yeah.
like, yeah. So, okay. So like while I was like had the W Trek plotted out. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to start off like going a little bit before that. And I flew down to like Buenos Aires and then I went to Ushuaia. So Ushuaia is like the most southern city of like all South America. And so what happens is like there's this island, right? And these penguins, like they were coming from Antarctica and they like were like, oh shit, where am I going? Oh, skirt, wrong turn. And then they ended up on this island basically. So it's like on this rancher's island. So like I took Pure Tour. It was this touring company, which they were absolutely wonderful. So sweet. And they like taught us all the rules. You weren't allowed to touch the penguins because obviously if they allowed humans to touch them, shit would go bad. Like people would be snatching penguins. I would have snatched a penguin. Yeah, you get to take this tour and they like take in this like bus ride, this ranch from downtown Ushuaia. So like it's super easy if like you go in to Ushuaia and like you stay downtown, get on the tour. You take a boat and then you get to this island, you and 10 people max. And you just like literally walk on this island and there's hundreds of penguins and they're just wildly walking around. It's so cool. And they're like right there because you have to like walk through this path. There's obviously a little path that you have to follow, you know, to make sure that you're not going into, I guess, like nesting holes and stuff. But like the penguins don't know about the lines. Like they're too short to be stopped. So they sometimes they're like right there and you're just like, you just like kind of stood there and like they looked at you and like you looked at them and it was just like, oh, it's so cute. Yeah.
Oh, what an awesome experience. Definitely, if I make it down to Patagonia, I'm going to be adding that to the itinerary because that just looked like an incredible time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't even like that much either. Like, I mean, the whole trip was just like, well, obviously, if penguins are your spirit animal, I don't give a damn. You pay whatever it costs to go see your spirit animals that close. Like, but yeah, like it wasn't even like that expensive. I mean, it was great. Yeah. And there's like another one, Magdalena Island, that's in Punta Arenas. So if you don't go to Ushuaia, but you can get to like Punta Arenas, I would check out Magdalena Island too. Cause like you can do the same thing. There's penguins like just chilling on this island.
You know, two things that I did want to ask you about because they come up on your feed. And I think the first one is a place that's flying under the radar when it comes to outdoor and the hiking scene. And that's Michigan and the Great Lakes area, which you're originally from Michigan. You got to explore the national park systems there. Can you share a little bit about hiking and exploring Michigan, your home state, and some of the national parks there?
Yeah. So Isle Royale is like the national park that's at the northern part. And that cousin Dane I was telling you about, like, was one of my inspirations for getting into hiking. Last year, our trip was Isle Royale because we were going to do like Grand Canyon. It got too complicated. And it was like on her bucket list. She was like, I just really want to hike this island. And it's incredible. So I flew into Detroit. She picked me up. We drove like 9 hours. So if you're going to go to Isle Royale, definitely like fly into Marquette if you can, because it's a lot closer. Michigan's gorgeous. Like you can just drive up the coastline on either side. I mean, the beaches there are like, I mean, it's not like a different vibe than going to like Florida. You don't get like the palm trees, but the Michigan beaches, sunrises and sunsets is out of this world. We went across the Mackinac Bridge, across the UP. And if you're into hiking, the Upper Peninsula is, I mean, it's gorgeous. Like you've got Pictured Rocks up there. I mean, there's so many places that like you can go. So yeah, so we went all the way to the Keweenaw, to like the tippy tops from one end of Michigan to like the tippy top of the other. We take a ferry boat across, and like once you're there, like there is no restaurants, like it's just you and your backpack. So when I did Patagonia, it was very like commercialized. Like I had all my meals made for me. Like you literally didn't have to do anything. They had like I mean, you could bring your own stuff, but like it was very like easy to try backpacking there. Royale, you are carrying all of your own gear. Like it's like a legit backpacking trip, right? Like, so you're for 4 days, you're on your own. Like you better hope that you got all your supplies because there is no resupply on the island. And so we went up there and it was just, I mean, like I'm a big mountain girl, right? So I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to go to this like national park. It's going to be like mid, I don't know, can't decide. It was so beautiful in like its own way because you had the, like lakeshore and the lakes, like the Great Lakes are just beautiful lakes. The water is pristine, especially Lake Superior. Lake Superior is the clearest, deepest lake. I mean, it's beautiful, right? Like untouched waters. And so like we saw, I mean, it was like a shadow of a wolf, but I still count it. We got to see a wolf. But we did get to see like on the second day we were walking and this like fox, this cute little fox was sitting at the top just chewing on some wood. And like we just sat there. Obviously, like we've got our phones out. We're like, heck yeah, we're like taking video of this cute little thing. It walks literally right in front of us, like stops, kind of like looks at us, does this cute little pose, and then like runs away, like maybe 10 feet away from us. I mean, absolutely insane. And then like at the end of our trip, like we were like, oh, we really want to see a moose. Not that you actually want to see a moose in person because those like they will fuck you up. And so we're like, well, do we really want to see a moose? Kind of. So Isle Royale is really known for like their like moose. Like lately they haven't been because they like, I think they put a bunch of like wolves on the island to like reduce the moose population. But yeah, so we got to hear a moose like in the woods, like bellowing. And if you've ever heard that sound, it is so fucking scary, so loud, but like it was epic.
I imagine, because I've heard, an elk do its mating call, and it's startling when you're not expecting. I can only imagine a moose, which is like twice the size of an elk, bellowing. You might think it's Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, it literally sounds like a mystical creature. You're like, what? And that's when we decided, like, we are glad that we did not see the moose because whatever that sound was coming out of was not something we wanted charging at us. Yeah. I mean, Michigan, like, if you're, you like larch season. So obviously you like love your fall colors. So like Michigan's fall is like, I mean, it's like, Vermont is like known for their fall colors. Like Michigan, northern Michigan is like, I mean, it's beautiful fall colors. And so like while we're on the island, we started seeing like all these reds and yellows and oranges like all over the island. Like, I mean, it's beautiful if you're going to go see like fall colors and stuff up there too.
Yeah, I've heard that if you want to see amazing fall colors like you do in the Northeast, but without the crowds, Michigan is where it's at. The second place I want to ask you, Tessa, is for folks that don't know Washington, Wenatchee is like almost right smack in the middle of the state. And it's perfectly situated because, you go a few miles east and you're in the high desert of Washington, but you go a few miles west and you start hitting the Cascades and you are actually up against one of the, more beautiful parts of the state, and that's the Alpine Lakes Wilderness. But can you share a little bit about your experiences hiking, not just Alpine Lakes Wilderness, but also Kolchak and the Enchantments?
So it's funny, actually. So I know we were talking about the Enchantments earlier. So when I first started like getting into like bigger hiking, like doing more than just a mile or a couple mile hikes, I was starting a cross country road trip and I was like, well, I'm going to hit the Enchantments first. Cause it was this hike that I heard I was doing Mount Dickerman with a friend like a year before. We were, hiking up and we were talking to like these other hikers and they were like, oh, we're training for the Enchantments. They just kind of like put that in my ear, like, oh, you're training for the Enchantments. It must be like, this really hardcore hike. And I'm like a little competitive. I was like, I'm going to do that hike. Like, if you have to train for it, like, I'm not that I was trained for that hike at all. Did not understand what they meant by that. I was so out of shape. I was probably like in the worst shape of my life. And I did like a couple mile or like 2 days worth of 10-mile hike, like the 2 days before. And so I get to the Enchantments and like, I'm like a baby hiker, right? Like I brought 2 water bottles with me. I think it was granola, and I didn't download the map. I had pre-workout as my energy, which like not a great idea. And like, I was just like, I'm going to do this hike. So like, didn't even know about the shuttle. I parked at the Stewart Lake trailhead, which is like the trailhead that you do to like go to Kolchak, which Kolchak, everyone knows it's like the Instagram like lake, right? Which I mean, it should be because it's it's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, so like I start there. I like start doing this hike and I didn't actually tell you this part. So on Asgard, when you were talking about like how you had to hike down Asgard and I was like, fuck that. Yeah, I almost died on Asgard the first time. You know, if you go too far to the right, like it's like a very risk of like the rocks slipping from under you. Yeah, I was that one. I ended up on those rocks. And like I had been hiking up with a dad and daughter, like I'd pass them or they'd pass me like through most of Asgard. And so, I like took the wrong turn right at that like end where you have to climb above like big boulders. And I ended up very far on the right in the middle of that under a boulder, had to like swing my body around this boulder. So like Asgard to me, like the fact that you hiked down it gives me like PTSD. I could not. I was looking down when I was like stuck under this big boulder rock. I was like looking down and I was just like crying out to God. And I was like, if there's something else I got to do, please like let me live. Because like when you're looking down Asgard to like towards Kolchak, like that is a steep, yeah. So kudos to you for hiking down Asgard the same day that you hiked up it. Because fuck that. Yeah. But yeah, so I get up to the core. It's amazing. The dad and daughter found me when I swung around the boulder and they were like, thank God, because they were going to call their SOS thing, which at this time didn't know what that was either. Like baby hiker, didn't know that like an SOS tool, if you're a solo hiker, is the best thing that you can do. Like get yourself a Garmin. Yeah, it will save your life. Like if you're ever in a situation. So yeah, so like we get to the top and they're like, well, you should keep going. You're through hiking it. And they had gotten permits to like sleep in the core, which is like, that's the golden goose. So like hiked through the enchantment. It was gorgeous. Got lost a bunch, ripped my pants halfway through, like we talked about. And that was just like so uncomfortable. So like you're in the core and then like when you're going down towards Snow Lakes, you're like sliding down boulders. I'm not knowing because like I'm so jacked up on pre-workout that like at this point and like anxiety of like just trying to make it. And it was also like 90 degrees in the core. So I was just like delusional. So I didn't feel that like I had scraped my whole back end. So yeah, so like I get to like the last 2 miles and like the little amount of water that was going through my system because thankfully like I found a few different angels like on the trail that filled my water bottles up because I didn't know what a water bag was. That's the first thing I think if you're a hiker to invest in is a water bag. I didn't have a water filter, didn't know what that was. So thankfully like these like angels had like filled my like water bottles up a few times. So I like didn't completely die from dehydration. But yes, I went to go pee the like last 2 miles and it like burnt too bad for me to like pull my pants up. And yeah, I walked the last few miles with my pants to my knees, just waddling and like cursing at life, just like F this, F that, like, oh my God, so bad. I guess that was kind of the start of me like really loving that area. And then I moved to Alpine Lakes Wilderness area and like in Wenatchee because it's right there, right? And honestly, I just think that it's really not that great to go to. No one go there. Please don't ruin it for the rest of us. Like, I don't want to tell people that it's a beautiful area because I'm a mountain girl. I love mountain views. And also, like we talked about pole plunging earlier, my dream hike is hike to like a alpine lake with the mountain view in the background, jump in the lake. I got into pack rafting this year. So like bring my pack raft up, like, pack raft on the lake for a little bit and then like hike back. And like, if you're in the Alpine Lake Wilderness, like you are set. Like that is all that is. It's all these gorgeous alpine lakes and like beautiful mountain views. And like the hikes are just, there's no one there. Like, so no one go there, please.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get enchanted by the enchantments, but the Alpine Lakes Wilderness is so vast and it has some equally remarkable alpine lakes outside of the enchantments that are worthy of a hike. And sometimes you can have those lakes all to yourself.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. Like, yeah, so the enchantments, it's that bucket list that everyone talks about, like Patagonia, those kind of things. But like, if you dive deep and like, you can find so many. I'm going to send you a list of all the hikes that you should do because they're just, yeah, it's so gorgeous. And like, you can do like a hike that's like 5 miles, or you can do like a 20-mile day hike, which is like great. Or you can do like part of the PCT, like the J section. I think that's like part of Alpine Lake Wilderness area. It's so huge. And like, people don't really realize you don't have to do, Kolchak, I think everyone should do once in their life. It's very like, it's like a bougie lake to go to, right? Like everyone does it. People do it in flip flops. God bless their souls. Don't know how. But if you're like really want to see some cool shit and like not see humans, like the Alpine Lakes Wilderness area is like top tier.
One of the best in the state for sure.
Yeah, but like no one go there because it's really not that great, and we're just lying to you, right?
Right. Well, Tessa, these last three questions are questions we like to ask all our guests on the podcast. The first one is when it comes to your day hikes, I feel like a lot of hikers have a regular summit routine, or maybe it's the end of the hike routine. For a lot of us, it's packing a favorite snack or drink or a moment of zen. For a lot of us, it's also looking forward to that favorite meal afterwards. Is there a regular custom or routine that you like to do when you reach your destination or when you make it back out?
So I kind of have a routine, I guess, through the whole thing. I am a Taurus. I'm a foodie. So I make sure to eat. I get a breakfast burrito. And if it's like big enough, then I eat half of it. And then I bring half for like the summit. I also always bring buffalo pretzels are like my jam. I just like love buffalo pretzels, especially because they're salty. So they're good. And then like if you bring that and like a granola bar, like that sweet and salty is a perfect combination for the top. And then at the end of a lot of my hikes, like if I didn't go, so like through like Leavenworth, there's like a river system, right? So like I have a couple secret spots. They're not really secret, but they're like roadside spots that I like to go swimming in. So if I was done with the hike and I didn't swim, like say I was just doing a summit or something, or I didn't jump in the lake for whatever reason, I always end my hike with going to my river spot to like rinse off and like cool off. That would be like my sunset thing. Cause I'm still a little chicken shit. Like I'm still afraid of like hiking in the dark. So like if I don't have to, I won't. So like I like to get done with my hikes like midday and then go and jump in the river, go home and like order some DoorDash and just smash. But yeah, the hiking life. Yeah.
Love it. No.
Yeah.
I think that resonates with a lot of us.
I mean, you're cooled off, you're not so sweaty, you just got a little cold plunge. And like in Leavenworth, oh my gosh, the river there, like if you can find the spots, I will also send you those coordinates or whatever. It's just beautiful. I mean, like you've got all the mountains in Leavenworth, so beautiful. So yeah, like you get to end your beautiful hike with like a beautiful fucking swim. So yeah.
Love it. Now, this next one, Tessa, is about your pack list. Is there a luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials?
I always bring headphones. Music is very therapeutic for me. So I'll always like put one headphone in and I'll just dance the entire hike. I don't know, like it helps you're going up these switchbacks, right? Like you could be going up there like dying, or you could be dancing up the switchbacks and like you don't really like feel, I mean, you kind of do, but like, like it's a little bit more enjoyable. Or you can like listen to a podcast, or you can listen to David Goggins telling you to stop being a bitch. And like, you're like, all right, I can fucking do this. You're right. Like, you're right, David. Yeah. So like whatever you need for motivation, like I think my headphones are definitely like the luxury item that I would like always add for certain areas. Like obviously you don't want to listen to headphones. I'm like not promoting it in all areas. Like if you're in grizzly territory, be safe. But like where I was hiking, it was like, I knew that there wasn't grizzlies. So like, and I always like one headphone out.
And then, Tessa, we're still at the very beginning of 2025, and I'm wondering if there's any hiking goals or travel goals for the rest of the year.
So to be honest with you, my life is kind of at this like pause because I'm in nurse practitioner school. So I work as a nurse, I work 3 days a week, and then I'm starting clinicals in March. So clinicals will be like 2 to 3 days a week. So primarily my life will be school and work. I just moved to like a newer area, like northern Idaho. So I definitely want to like do some like day hikes here, like on my days off, and just like try and squeeze that time in, but not a whole lot. I'm going to see my cousin get married. Like that's, the big travel plan, I guess. I did like the Costa Rica trip as kind of like a final hoorah while my life is kind of like on, unfortunate pause, which is like so lame because I'm like, I need to travel. And I'm sure I'll like find like anyone that knows me knows like if I can squeeze traveling in, like I will. Like I'm planning the week before my clinical start. I'm doing like a mini trip to Mexico just to like check out Cabo area. That's like kind of in the plans. Still working on the details. Yeah. So honestly, I don't have a lot of hiking plans other than a day hike, maybe once a week, and check out this area where I'm at. But yeah, the big goal will be once I graduate, I'm going to do like a cross Europe trip next summer before I settle down in my nurse practitioner position. And I really want to do the Dolomites and hiking in that area. There's like a trek you can do for like a week. That's kind of like on the goal.
Looking forward to it, and I have a sneaking suspicion that you're going to sneak in some epic hikes, even through school and work. I'm looking forward to seeing that in 2025. Now, Tessa, this last bit of the podcast is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 10 hiking-related topics, and you just choose which one you prefer out of the two. You're more than welcome to say both, neither, but the first one is, when it comes to snacks on the trail, do you prefer sweet or savory?
So like I said, like the buffalo pretzels are like my top dog. So like I would definitely say, is that savory? That'd be more of like a savory treat. So like that, but like obviously like I also bring granola bars for like sweetness. So, but like I guess I would more so say if I don't have like my buffalo pretzels, like something's wrong. Yeah.
And then this one's a tough one, but waterfalls or summits?
So, I mean, I like love a waterfall, but I will fuck hard with the summit. Like, I think it's just like, you know, that like you just climbed a very hard hike if you like are doing a summit, and the views are way cooler.
This next one's about trail systems. Switchbacks or straight up?
Oh, switchbacks for sure. Yeah. Incline for me, no go. Like, yeah, switchbacks.
And then our most controversial one, trek poles or freehand?
Okay, so that one is hard because I think trekking poles for really hardcore, like the Enchantments, I think it's necessary for like, you know, going down certain parts. And like anytime I'm backpacking, like carrying a heavy pack, you need trekking poles. But I think for like a day hike is like freehand for sure.
This next one's about your footwear, trail runners or hiking boots?
Oh, trail runners for sure. If you get like that spurt of energy, you can't just run down the hill in boots. Like you will break an ankle.
Here's another trail system question. Do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
I like an out and back, mainly because I like getting to a destination and coming back. Most of the hikes that I'm into are out and back.
And I think I know the answer to this one, but group hikes or solo adventures?
Solo adventures for sure. Yeah.
And then our two hardest ones, sunset hikes or sunrise hikes? Because I know you've experienced both.
I'm going to be really honest. I would prefer a sunrise because I don't want to hike in the dark. I think I really want to be a sunset girly, but I think my fear of hiking down in the dark by myself stops me from being a sunset girly. I'll see a sunset from like the bottom of the trail at my car, but yeah.
And then this other equally tough one is spring wildflowers or fall colors?
Ooh, fall colors for sure. I mean, you can still hike in the fall. The spring is like everything's still snowy, so.
And then the last one, steep climb or long distance?
Ooh, long distance for sure. The like steep climb, I just the incline. I'd rather just hike like 20 miles than it not be where my knees are like, what are we doing?
Well, that was it for the this or that questions, Tessa. It has been an absolute blast talking to you and hearing about your experiences. If our listeners want to check out your upcoming experiences as well as some of your previous posts from Patagonia, the Canadian Rockies, where can they find you on social media or online?
So I just like have my Instagram, like RN Traveling Earth. I'm not an influencer or anything. I just like to like make videos. I think it's just like sharing with people like the beauty that I've seen. I get really stoked about it. So like I just want to like share with other people. But yeah, I'm not someone that has like a website or anything cool like that.
Yeah, we'll be sure to link your Instagram so folks can check out the penguin video along with some of the other amazing videos that you've been able to share. But Tessa, it has been a joy to speak with you, and I look forward to what 2025 has to bring for you. And appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So it's been great chatting, and thanks.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Tessa. We extend our heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at RN Traveling Earth and check out the episode show notes to learn more. And that's a wrap for Season 9. Thank you to all the guests, listeners, and sponsors for such an incredible season. We're going to be taking a short week-long break between Season 9 and Season 10, and we'll be back on March 31st. Also, a big shout out to Jordan for helping out this season with our social media and research and development. Thank you, Jordan, for all your hard work this season. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Friday. To ensure you never miss out on these thrilling tales, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to check out our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Tessa. Follow him on Instagram at Tessa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.